Is video gaming your guilty pleasure? More than half of both women and men in the UK consider themselves gamers. More than a third of us primarily game on our mobile phones. Whether you love a puzzle game like Wordle, or while away the hours on Grand Theft Auto, Fortnite, or roleplay games like Roblox or World of Warcraft, 70% of us think these games make us happier. We play for fun. We play to unwind. We play to compete and socialise with our friends. We might be a little bit addicted to it and feel a bit guilty. After all, we've all heard that too much screen time is bad for you. Would Jesus be a gamer? Should we be on our screens in church? With adults and young people spending 5 to 8 hours on screens every day, should we stop fighting the draw of screens and find out how we can glorify God in this digital space? Can we harness that creativity for the church? I'm Melanie Cade, Managing Director of Roots for Churches, and today I'm talking to the Rev Kevin Collier, vicar of a church on an economically deprived housing estate near Blackburn. He's using the world's most popular video game, Minecraft, to disciple families in his community. We're exploring how a gaming platform could be part of your church's worship and discipleship. Thanks for joining us on the Roots for Churches podcast. Here we go.
Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for joining us on the Roots for Churches podcast.
Oh, hello, Melanie. Nice to see you.
So, Kevin, you have been engaging with this idea of Minecraft Church, and I just want to ask you, as a fellow parent who is concerned about screen time for my children, are you endorsing more screen time or even screen time in church?
Absolutely. I think, yes, we should be for various different reasons, but the right sort of screen time. Screen time is, there's lots of different sorts of screen time, but when screen time is focused on building relationship, it's focused into creativity, it's focused into things that bring positivity, it can be extremely, extremely helpful. I mean, we all know the negative effects of excessive screen time and things like that, and excessive gaming, but we all play, we all interact, and using screens and these new tools, these new gifts of communication interaction, actually it's just a new form of human interaction, and it's authentic, not always easy to understand. We're still learning. It's very, very new compared to the thousands of years of human existence. We're only a few decades into this, but it is really, really important. Yeah.
And I always had an idea that gaming or video gaming was a bit niche, that it was a bit something that predominantly men did on their PCs up in the room. The lights are out, they're gaming late into the night. But that's not necessarily true, is it? It's not a niche thing. How many people are involved in gaming?
So pretty much 50% or more of the population are involved in gaming. It's actually quite a lot. Some of the statistics, it's like about 50% of people who game on their phones are female. So it's not predominantly as a male-dominated thing as you would imagine. But there's different sorts of gaming and different places of gaming. So men, it's quite male-dominated on consoles and PC gaming, as you say. But yeah, there's lots of just different ways to game and to do interactive things. So, for example, my boys play chess online. They could use a PC. They actually use their mobile phones, but they're playing against humans on the other side of it. So yeah, the gaming is just absolutely vast, and it's also probably something. There's still a little bit of a culture of shame around it in some ways, because if you kind of imagine, going up to your local leader and minister and saying, how much gaming do you do? The kind of implication is, well, shouldn't you be praying and being very spiritual and things like that? And one of my dear friends, who's my training incumbent, it was a very sort of, choir-based choral church, middle of the road church, very sort of standard Church of England sort of thing. But Ainsley is a very deep gamer, and quite often would like to spend time on Doom, dispatching demons left, right, and centre. I think he saw it as a very spiritual thing and a good stress relief after the pressures of parish life. And it is good, and it's important.
Indeed, and I think we I think partially because the media talks about how bad screen time can be for you. And I think as adults, we know, oh, here I am, doom scrolling on my phone.
Yeah.
We know sometimes we do use games as a way to sort of numb ourselves, as a way to escape, as an anxiety relief. But I think you've been involved in gaming in a way that is very life-bringing. So can you start off by, I guess we've skipped over the introduction of who you are and how you got into gaming, but can you give us a bit of that and why you're so positive about gaming?
Yeah. So I'm Kevin. I'm a pioneer minister in the Church of England. So that means that I went through a selection process back in 2016 around then. So I felt called to be a part of the Church of England, to innovate, to do new things. That was where I fitted best. And as that calling was being discerned, I went through the standard training. I was at the CMS, so the Church Missionary Society, which has a fabulous training for pioneers that help them to look within different cultures and to understand different cultures. And then I've just come through Curacy, and then I've moved up to Blackburn, which is where I am at the moment. And I'm just in a little town called Darwin, which is south of Blackburn. It's on the edge of a very financially deprived area, but with amazing people, wonderful people who actually are really mad keen gamers. It's a massive interest on housing estates. People do game on phones, do game on consoles. They love gaming. So that's been really interesting. But my sort of background in gaming, I think, is when I, all the way back to I'm born in the 70s. So, the very first Pong games that came on, and apparently my uncle blamed me for breaking his TV set with this game system that we had. And I've had various computers all my life. I am quite geeky from that side of things. And the sort of games I'd liked have been always, from the very early 80s gaming culture with the Atari and things like that. But I've written a lot of games myself. So, and I realized as I kind of encountered faith for myself when I was 16. And I remember when I was about 18, 19, I was doing a job. And I was working with the young people in the church as well. And I thought, how could I use the computer to do something there? And I happened to have 2 home computers at the time. And so I wrote identical computer games for both of them. These were text-based adventure games. And it also had some physical things, suitcases and this, that, and the other that they had to do. And I kind of had them working together. I think I was trying to explore computer games and using computer games in that context even then. I know the kids really enjoyed it. I'm not sure that there was any, I'm still not sure there's any spiritual point at the time, but it was a good way to see, they were totally engaged. So, but it's taken a while for there to be a suitable sort of computer game that you could actually use for discipleship purposes. You've got to think, well, games that are centered around destruction and competition don't necessarily lend themselves to exploring themes of discipleship, perhaps except sort of Armageddon type things. But that's a very narrow part, and we'll get into deep theological disputes if we go down that route.
Definitely. And so there are, puzzle games or sort of a Bible explore, go through a Bible story on a computer game. But you have ended up with Minecraft as a predominant one that you've used. Why Minecraft?
Right. It's interesting you say, because with the text adventure games, for example, there's quite a few Christian-themed games. But I've always found them less helpful because they tend to have an open world. So if you're playing the part of Jesus, it's no fun if you're not allowed to do the wrong things as well as the right things. But then how does that help you anyway in discipleship? So they've always lacked something. But what Minecraft does is Minecraft is a really interesting game because it's based in a huge virtual world, a very blocky world where each block is about 1 meter cubed. And it's got loads of animals, creatures, this sort of thing. Now you can play it in a sort of quest mode where you head out into this world. You have to survive, and there is a goal. You can finish it. And I was reliably informed by my sons that you can finish it in 1 hour and 1 tick, which is, I think, about a 15th of a second. That's the shortest possible time. But nobody's done it faster than 3 hours or something like that. So that's one way of playing it. But you can also then connect to other people because you can connect online. Therefore, you could all compete together. But the other aspect of it that's really, that makes it, just transforms it, is when you turn off the competition side and you go into a creative side, you can just mold this environment, you can build, you can sculpt, once you've created things, you can then inhabit them. You can role play with them, which I've seen kids do very happily. You just build incredible, not just landscapes or buildings, but you can build things that are a little more abstract or more surreal. Massive statues, you've got flowing water, lava. You can make intricate circuits that, some people have actually recreated entire computers. I mean, actual processors and things in Minecraft. It's a very, very capable game. I have no idea how they do that, but it is just so it's got so much scope. It's also a game that the technology level, it's kind of set in a pre-industrial time. So there's no engines, there's no cars, there's no transport, there are trains, but there are bows, arrows, swords, sand, camel, water, trees, fruit, which actually is very much more similar to the biblical time. So, if you're thinking about, creating a blacksmith's or a carpenter's shop, you can create a carpenter's shop, for example, because there's all of those wood things, and you actually have to go and chop a tree down to get it. So it is quite intriguing. And the fact then that you can do that, you could do this on your own, or you could do this with others. And I think it's when you introduce other people into the dynamic that gaming becomes something way more important for humans. Yes, that we talked about screen time. I think screen time on your own can be helpful, but screen time with others can be incredibly useful. And I think most of us discovered that we could do all sorts of forms of interaction we'd never thought about during lockdown. Some more successful than others, but using a game world to meet and interact is actually very well understood in the gaming community. Millions of people do it all the time. And even massive companies like Meta, formerly Facebook, they've invested billions recently trying to create these virtual worlds where people will want to inhabit. Well, I don't know quite why they've completely failed in it, because actually people are much more happy to inhabit in Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, millions of people, and it's fun because they can play games together, and games cement human interaction in a way that, even if you don't do computer games, everybody plays games in different forms and has done in their life. So yeah, I'm quite.
It's about the relational and the creative bit in Minecraft. That it's the open world idea, but also the way of being creative together. The time period of it that sort of is reminiscent of biblical times, but the relationship thing is really important. And I think for those of us who didn't grow up gaming, or grew up gaming maybe only with our sibling who was sitting next to us on the same Atari, that idea of meeting your friends that you might have met from school online later and chatting online while you game, that feels a little bit foreign to some people. It feels like this perhaps unsupervised chat rooms that we're anxious about our children being in there, because there could be bad people who would want to take advantage or groom our children for things. So there is some anxiety around kids gaming online in groups, and some parents are like, you can play the game, but I don't want any of the chat rooms on. I know I've done that with some of my children. Or you can only be on there with the people we 100% know.
Yeah.
So can you talk me through how you use this as a discipleship resource? Are you getting your youth group online, or how are you doing this?
We aren't actually online in the way I think people would understand online. When you if you spend a lot of time in gaming, you start to understand where the risks are, where the risks aren't, what actually is completely open, and what is more closed and has an allow list or a deny list or something like this. Because most online forums or anything like that usually have some form of entry barrier, so that you have to kind of get approval to come in. There's some moderators and this, that, and the other. Now, anybody who's unsupervised can find their way to anything, whatever. So we're never encouraging unsupervised things. But there is an awful lot that can be really well supervised and actually can provide some quite safe spaces. Now, we're not actually interacting with the whole wide world. All we're doing when we meet together, because we meet together in person, is we actually run our own server. So we've got basically like our own internet in the building. So the building itself, nobody from outside the building can enter it. It's, digitally. It's those people who come and are there. So we have our Wi-Fi, and what we do is you set up a little server, Minecraft server. Now, surprisingly, the Minecraft server is completely free. For computer products, you often think, hang on, I'm going to spend thousands of pounds. No, this is free. And when you run it, the people who come, or what devices you use, they have to be able to own the game, but the server's free. So they come into the building, log on to our network, and then we tell them this is where the server is, and they can connect to it. And then their little character, their avatar, is inside a shared game, whilst they're sitting on the outside around a table, having a biscuit, drinking a brew, and on the tablet. So they're talking to one another verbally. They don't need any other facilities to do that. There are some chat facilities in the game, but it's not as necessary when you're facing one another around the table. And that's it. That's them. But they can then do something together. They can work together still in that world to build and create and imagine wild things, really. And that's how we use it. So that's the sort of technical setup, which is, for people who've never heard of it, probably sounds terrifyingly complex. But as I said, so many people are gamers and techie. If doing Minecraft Church requires a team of people, it requires the techie types, it requires the leader types, it requires the people with spiritual maturity, it requires the people with passion to work with young people and families and adults. So you're always going to be doing team, and you will be surprised who will come out of the woodwork when you start talking about this, because as I say, it's a taboo subject in church. If you say who plays Minecraft, adults who plays Minecraft, and you're allowed to say it, that you'd be surprised who comes out of the woodwork. And they've got the skills to make some of these things happen. So you don't need to worry about it, but it can absolutely be done securely. It can be done with, parents wouldn't need to worry about it. But if your kid is a mad keen Minecrafter anyway, you probably should be aware of what's happening online. If you're not already, you're being a bit negligent. I mean, my kids, I remember them joining a particular server. So I knew what server they were joining, and I knew it was an open server, and I was just keeping my ears out. And one day they just got really, really upset because people came in, trashed absolutely everything they did. In fact, in Minecraft, it's called griefing, because it causes so much grief. You've worked on something for hours and hours and hours. Someone comes in, deletes it, explodes it, usually with TNT, and it's gone. And that's one of the nastier things that could happen. There are a whole load of nasty things that could happen, but that was one of them. And so knowing that I knew that, and I could monitor it. But that's what happens in your own home. So you've got to start there. We can do it very safely and securely in church, and so it's really good.
So that sounds fascinating. So you've got all these. Are they all children? Do you have adults? Is this a sort of an intergenerational mix of people who are interested?
Yeah. So, well, we decided, because we're a very small church. We're a church that's been that has struggled in the last prior to me being there, and has really struggled, had declined in numbers, but we're fiercely praying to grow. And so I work for the diocese. I'm part of the Empower project in the Blackburn diocese, which is involved in urban estates, training people and doing evangelism in urban estates and things. So that's why I am here where I am. And so as we were put in there, it started to grow again. So when I came, I was like, well, who plays games? In fact, it was actually on my very first day, official day, a family came to me and they started to talk about, they wanted me to do a marriage because they just heard I'd arrived and they wanted me to do a marriage. And I was like, okay. And we got chatting and found out they were all into Minecraft. I mean, this is a big family. So it's 7 kids, I think, actually, and the couple. And they said, no, we all play Minecraft together. We made Asda in Minecraft. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
so when are you available? What's a good night? And they were like, well, Thursdays at 6:30. And we're still meeting on Thursdays at 6:30. So the families would come, and they came as a family. We didn't have enough people to say we could safely take a whole bunch of young people. And actually, there is a different dynamic when families are there. So anyway, usually there's 1 or 2 mad keen Minecrafters in a family, but then there's probably an older or younger sibling who likes to tag along and a long-suffering parent who comes with them. So we do things in a very open manner. So it's not like it's probably apparent that it was never going to be like a church service where you sit in rows. We actually have tables around the church and people come through the door, and usually they rush for the biscuits and tea, and then they come and sit down. So we have several Minecraft tables, and they'll come, and we've got various different tablets available for them, or Chromebooks, and they sit and they'll start to interact until we get going. We've got a few other places around as well. So we have a Lego pit. We have some people just really like coming and colouring. So we have colouring. We have usually a creative table where we do some sort of creative art. And then we have a stop motion area. And there's a lot of the Minecraft play toys that we were just given. And I thought, well, they can make some stop motion with them. They have to do something creative with it. And they have to produce it. So they'll do that. And the parents will dot themselves around, they'll sit down, they'll chat. And although some of the parents have no faith at all, many of the children had no interaction with church previously, but just mad keen on it and heard about it from school, say. And the parents have just they've just warmed to it. So a couple of the parents now fully engaged. So one guy sits down and he builds things. He's actually got quite a wild imagination, and he builds things. He built an angel with waterfall wings the other day that was 20 meters high. So there's some really interesting things that come out of it. And so the parents also are engaging.
You don't need a tablet each or a screen each, or people don't have to bring their own. Because I was thinking, like, is this prohibitive to those who can't afford, say, a PC or something like that?
This area is in the top 10% of deprivation in England, and quite a lot of people have their own tablets. They have their own gaming things. Now, some of them might have Switches, Nintendo Switches, for example, very common. Doesn't actually work very well. But some people have tablets and they'll bring them along, phones. We've got about three or four tablets. They're inexpensive tablets, 3 or 4 tablets, and some cheap Chromebooks, because Chromebooks work really well now with Minecraft. So we have had some initial expenditure, so a couple of £100, £500-600 to do that. But there are quite a lot of grants out there that you can use to get this. And so that was like the initial boost. But if you're a mad keen Minecrafter, you'll probably have a device that you do it on. And fortunately, many of these devices are portable. So so they can come and do that. So it's not bad, but you have to balance it. Very occasionally we've had to rotate people and ration them, but really not very often.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. And yeah, I mean, my kids play Minecraft on my phone in a doctor's waiting room, so any smartphone can run it. People can do it themselves if they download it.
£6 or £7. Grab your mum's phone and come along. You won't need
if
any
she'll
data.
Let you have it.
Yeah.
And I think you said earlier that Minecraft is one of the most popular games in the world. It's quite likely people already have it on their phone or somewhere.
They will probably, they've got access to it. It's on almost every single platform. So it is something like, I can't remember the exact numbers, 300 million copies sold. Wow. It's huge, absolutely huge. The biggest computer game, and quite rightly so because of its qualities. My kids talking about it last night, the new features that come out, and and they're 16, and so they all it's there, and you almost certainly will see T-shirts and clothes around the place, even if they're not into it as playing it themselves. There's a sort of bit of a culture around it. I think there's a Minecraft movie coming out, but it's going to be rubbish, I'm sure.
It's quite ageless, I think, because you can play it quite simply as quite a young child, but as you say, teenagers, you don't outgrow it in the way a lot of the other games. I think there's a role play, Toca Boca or Roblox. They probably have like an age. Even Fortnite, you get to a certain, you're like, I'm a bit fed up with that. Whereas Minecraft, it feels like it's quite expansive, and it allows.
In. I mean, oh my goodness, there's so many different things you do. Like, so for example, I have there's a young colleague, a friend of mine, who we get together online, and sometimes just to talk, we go on a horse ride in Minecraft. So I get on a horse, he gets on a horse, off we go. We've made a particularly weird world, which is kind of floating islands. And so every now and then we'll stop, get off our horses, fly in the air, build a bridge, get back on our horses and ride them across. And then we just keep going to see what we can find and watch. And then sometimes we set up camp for the night and build tents and stuff. But it's just kind of, you do it as you're talking, just as you would go for a physical walk with someone, probably not on horseback with bridges and things, but so you can, I'm a grown adult, I can do that sort of thing. Other people, I know there's someone is walking from one end of Minecraft to the other, which
it's a bit like Land's End to John O'Groats, isn't it?
It's way further than it's like walking to Mars. I mean, it's a huge distance in the real world. And it just adds different layers. So one of the things the teenagers like to do is, because they're able to be a bit more sophisticated and use some of the kind of switches and circuitry, they can create games. We were just talking about it the other day. And so the kids have come up with some amazing games that we play. Ice boat racing is a particular thing. So you jump into a boat and you can sort of row, but a boat on ice in Minecraft skitters around and shoots away really fast, and they zoom off. And they like to have ice boat racing because it's just crazily hard to control. It's a real leveler. So they build these vast courses, and it has automatic gates that open, and they can do the scoring and everything. What was really interesting is one day we were talking about the Jesus Still in the Storm on Lake Galilee. So 45 minutes later, after we started doing this, I went over there, and three of these lads, two of them were mine, I think, but three of them were making an ice boat course. I'm like, okay, an ice boat racing course, that's interesting. And then they showed it right at the end, because we always show what people have made. And they were like, here's an ice boat racing course, and you go along here. It's crazy. It's like being in a storm. It's like being twisted around and not knowing where you are. And they actually made a sort of wave as well. It had a jump in it, and it made a wave, and this, that, and the other. And then right at the end, it goes plop straight onto the boat. So you finish on a bigger boat that's where Jesus is. And that water is completely still and calm.
Mm.
And everybody wanted to do this. They all wanted to play ice boat racing onto the boat. And so that story is deeply imprinted in their minds. And I've noticed this again and again, where we did things, we built it in Minecraft, and they came back, and particularly folks who have never encountered the stories of Jesus before would say, oh yeah, or some of the Old Testament stories. It would really imprint them. I mean, they're stuck in my mind too. So I have a particular vivid memory now of Moses' encounter in the burning bush. I mean, that actually is quite possible to do in Minecraft. Really lends itself to it. And so they were all building it and built it together. And then they would say, well, this is Moses. He looks like this. And here's some sheep over here. That's this flock that he was tending. And, there's some very vivid imagery that comes to mind and just helps cement the story aspect of it. And that builds on the discipleship.
So each time you meet, you sort of allow people to inhabit a bit of a Bible story through creative ways, whether it's Minecraft or stop motion animation. Is it mostly free flowing? Is there, and then you said there's some sharing. Is there worship, or is there, how do we interact in that?
Exactly. So I deliberately wanted to create a form of church that was worshipful, that was a place where people could explore and grow in discipleship, where they could pray, where they could actually, it was a form of church. Now, there's very little singing. But then again, you remember there was a time before organs were invented. And what did they do? I mean, when organs came in, a technological box of air and valves and keys and switches. Now it seems a very ancient thing. But it changed the whole form of church worship. I'm not going to say Minecraft will do the same, but so anyway, so when they come in, they come down, and we always start with a welcome, a greeting, kind of following the pattern of the service of the word if you're an Anglican. And there's a small fight over who gets to read that prayer and gets to light the candles. They really fight about it. And a lot of their reading has not been great. Some of these kids have really struggled at school, and the teachers are always slightly amazed when I say, they were fighting to read the prayer. And so they do that. So they read the prayer, and then I usually start telling a story. So I'll be picking a story. It's either often a piece of narrative or some aspect of the life of Jesus. You imagine, for example, the paralyzed man being lowered through the roof really lends itself well to be built in YWAM, because you can put in all of the people jamming out the house, because there's loads of villagers who sort of bumble along, and so you've got this feeling of actually being in a crowd. So we'll talk about that with some piece of narrative, or potentially you could use some imagery from a psalm. You could use almost anything if you put your mind to it, but you will find that there are some aspects that are slightly easier than others to do. But the life of Jesus, man, there's huge amounts of it there, and the parables of Jesus, it just lends a completely different way of engaging with them. So we'll do that, and then they'll go off. As they go, they can move from table to table as it takes them. Sometimes they're not quite sure how it'll settle, because not everybody's a mad keen Minecrafter. They may go to the Lego, they may do some colouring, they may do some some sort of creative worship or artistic thing that often they can just come and run over to something. So sometimes it might be, I think we made the burning bush, and we did handprints for flames, so everybody could come over and place their hand on it, and right at the end we can then use that as a form of prayer, and we get everybody around to do that and to engage in prayer. You can pull on some Roots resources. I'm sure that there's always those little extra things that you could chip in and add in, that will help you get a bit of a creative idea, because it's not always easy. We have the team gets together, sort of like, how could we do this? What could we do? So we'll be doing that. Might do a bit of a confession. We occasionally do a song. We tend to love doing things like Jumping in the House of God. And there's quite a few little songs which have really nice gaming videos that go to them. So there's a Jesus, You're My Superhero that has got sort of stop motion Lego in it, which works well with us. So we'll do some things like that. If we're doing communion, we would always start by making bread. So when you come together, there's a simple bread,
not virtual bread.
No, real bread. And so there's a table set up, and they just come, and everyone loves to make their own little piece of bread, and someone gets to make the communion bread, and then one of our team in the kitchen will bake that. It takes about 45 minutes, but we've got the time. And then later on, towards the end, we will then share it. And then so we go into this time, and they start. They're all busy building and coming up and trying to get discussion flowing across the table, which is really good. I mean, a lot of kids, we'll maybe mention a bit later, but a lot of kids are neurodiverse, and they love Minecraft. Neurodiverse kids love Minecraft, and it helps them start to then work out how you can interact with others, how you can do that, because there's a safety in Minecraft. And then they can start to move towards others. So they'll all work together chatting about that. And then as we go on, some of them lose focus. 45 minutes actually is a very long time for an activity, but you know what it is with screen time. People get mesmerized by screen time, and so quite often we'll do a game that we call a re-energizer. We do that at the end rather than the beginning with our lot, but and it could be just totally stupid, but it just helps refocus some of them. And then we'll start to sort of draw some of the threads together. So I go around to every single table. What have you been making? What have you built? So then someone spins around in the world, so you can see it on. We've got a big screen or a projector, so you can see what they've built. But then it's the question of, why did you build it like that? What are you saying there? Because the young people they've got a very instinctive idea of spirituality. And actually, as they're doing this, they're open to God. That you can pray and do a computer game, and they're sort of thinking, how do I do this? What do I do? And sometimes inspiration hits them, but they haven't got the vocabulary or tools to describe it. So I remember once a young person there'd been a confession, and this young person we'd put all of our sins together in the virtual world. In little books, and then buried them under something, and then blew it all up with TNT. So God takes it, wipes it away, and there was this huge crater of rock. And this was at the beginning, and by the end, I just watched them zooming around in the world. I'm like, hang on a second, what? That's not rock anymore. And we went over, and I said, what's happened here? There's grass. And this very quiet girl, on the spectrum, said, I did that. And like, what did you do? Why did you do that? I said, I thought, new life would come after this. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. When we confess our sins to God, we're reconnected with God. That's what it is. Turning away and turning to. That's how we gain life. And she just did it. but being able to, put some theological shape to it, helped with that aspect of discipleship. She's been a part of this for a long time now, and has really grown in her self-confidence as well. But I do remember another lass. I think we were doing the dove. We were doing John's baptism. Sorry, Jesus' baptism by John, where the dove comes down, and she kind of made this massive chicken. It looked more like a chicken than a dove, but apparently it was dove. And you could go inside its brain, and you could see that there were only 3 brain cells in there. She was very clear, 3 brain cells. But we're like, so why did you want to build the dove like this? And she said, well, this is the same dove that Noah saw. And I was like, you mean Noah's Ark? Yeah, there was a dove there, wasn't there? You're right. Yeah, there was a dove there as well. And I'd never connected the 2 doves together, but she'd connected the presence of the Spirit in both of those times together. So I had to very quickly think, yes, you're absolutely right. There's the Holy Spirit, and God is at work, and he's present in those things. And so there were so many of these aspects that come up, and it's through play, through the through role play as well, that they're starting to interact with those stories and understanding what it is and what faith means, and what following Jesus is like. And so, it comes through that. So I'll go around all of the tables. We'll show the stop motion that's been made, which often is kind of mess, but sometimes just blows you away with what they've managed to do in time like that. And we just talk about it. Lego as well. Sometimes the Lego stuff that kind of goes straight onto the altar because it's quite portable. And so we'll do that. Then we finish with communion, if we're doing communion, and we pray. And there's another fight for the end blessing. They have to. There's usually 3 children who want to do the final prayer, so we either do it 3 times, or they have to share it. And then quite often we'll do Minecraft of the week. So we've got these 2 wooden boxes that we stick on people's heads, the Minecraft masks. And I'll just pick someone who's done some really brilliant modelling. And quite often it's some of the parents who have never really had faith. They've come along, they've done something brilliant. So it's just trying to see, what's happening there. And so we make it really happen. So that's kind of what happens, really.
It sounds
but
fantastic.
These are all kids from the estate. They're all kids from the estate. They're all kids who've never really encountered church before, never encountered any particular form of church before, and their parents. And this is now their church. So, it's been 2 years, so it really is their church now. And they bring their friends. So it's kind of all happening, really.
It's amazing. I really love it. I love that people get to bring something that they're passionate about and worship God through that creative outlet. And on one level, it's not that new. Churches have run choirs, churches have run football clubs. We have often engaged where people have their hobbies and use them as ways to build community and to do outreach. And it's just a different way, a different hobby that people have.
Yeah.
And it's so creative that it's actually quite simple to bring it in. It's not like a football game where you have a 5-minute God slot at the end. You can actually interweave God content through the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I try not to call it a club, Minecraft club. It's some kids sometimes, Minecraft club, when's it on? I'm like, no, it's Minecraft church. And we're weaving Jesus through it all and Jesus' story through it all. But it is a major part of people's lives. And the culture of gaming, they understand. There's the language of it, the symbols, signs. So it's trying to see, how do you put the importance of all we've learned in faith and having faith into those signs and symbols, and then they get it quickly, and then they'll be able to translate it to other things as well.
And I just think, as they're playing Minecraft the rest of the week, those symbols and even those pictures and the concepts they've done in that world will be coming back to them more freshly than sort of, you know, maybe the church building or pictures from the Bible. It's like they've fully inhabited this in their creative world. So it sounds fascinating.
We've used Minecraft for prayer as well. So one thing we wanted to try and help young people use Minecraft for prayer. So signs are you can use signs like you would use Post-its in most creative prayer things these days. But so you could put those up and you could put signs around the walls. So it's quite easy to pray like that, and people could put up different things. We did something when we were praying for Ukraine and the Ukraine war. One of the lads put out loads of tanks. Very quickly, he managed to build a load of tanks. And I said, right, I want you to pray for peace and turn those tanks into something of peace, just as it says, beat your spears into pruning hooks and swords into plows. And so they started going off doing that. And one of them, they replaced every block in the tank with glass blocks and made a greenhouse out of it. And some turned it into a theme park. That was a very potent way of doing it. We even tried to bring in a bit of peaceful, more meditative form, and so which we called stilling with rabbits. So you could make your character lie down, and then we spawned 100 rabbits. And it was just the weirdest thing of these little rabbits hopping around and hopping onto you and hopping off you. And I was like, well, we're all going to be quiet. And it was strange, but it just gives people that possibility to think, how could I creatively construct something and use this to talk to God? People have prayer diaries, people have prayer journals. Why can't you have a rabbit world in Minecraft with signs on the walls? There's plenty of ways to pray.
I love that. I love that you can create like a Minecraft prayer room, as it were, with Post-it notes on the wall. It makes me think of the 24/7 prayer room that you have all the creative paper on the wall. So I love that.
I quite like making a little hermitage. Like I could be a monk, brilliant. And you can climb up the rocks and hide away and make your own little hermitage. So I've quite liked making those myself.
That's great. So I can imagine some churches thinking, this is perfect. I know so many families that would be into this. I want to get involved. And you've got a website where you've got more information about Minecraft Church. Can you just tell us about the website?
Yes, so www.minecraftchurch.uk, not co-UK, UK. That's our website. And you can interact with me there. You can connect. I put quite a lot of articles on there. And it has a bit more of our history where we started exploring things online during lockdown all the way through to now. We've started 2 other churches in person, and I'm in contact with actually quite a number of churches, people who are really interested in starting a church. And there's a nice little network of people who will help you, support you with tech. You can ask a question, how do you do this? How do you do that? I've got about 20, 50 sessions that we've used, 25 to 50 sessions that we've used, and give you some session ideas of things we tried. And you can pull in material from roots. You could do all sorts of things. You can follow the lectionary without problem. You just might need to select which particular story. So yes, let's do that. And by all means, get in touch. We can teach you how to do it. Come and visit. It's probably easier to see than it is to explain. I'll be honest. You'll get it when you see it.
Yeah, I fully get that. And I think some people may think, I'm going to go in, whole hog on this. But other people might be like, well, that's a really cool idea. I want to do that for a family service that I'm running. Or I want to commission this group of children to create something in Minecraft and then show it on the big screen.
Absolutely.
So all of these kind of elements can be worked in, whether it takes over your whole church model and church service or whether it's a little bit. It is really doable. And I think it's just sort of unmasking that gaming is an area, a landscape, a part of culture that we need to inhabit as the church and utilize. Like the creativity of humans has made this, and God inhabits that creativity.
I love your suggestion, actually, to just get the kids to network together. They'll know how to do it. Put them in, come around your house, sort it out, tell them to do something, and then they can make a little video of what they've shown, and they can tell the story themselves. Put that in. I would be really interested to know how that goes, because I think it would be quite explosive in its impact that it'll have, and weirdness. It's going to be weird, I can assure you. But the young people would just love it. So, it's a great suggestion. You can do this really, really small. You don't have to do it like I do. But
it
there's
doesn't have
just
to be everything, but baby steps
can
work. Yeah. And I think also just to open up the conversation, whether you've got kids or grandkids, having a conversation, sitting down with them when they're gaming and getting them to talk you through what they're doing. As you say, that creativity, and it might look destructive. It might look like they're just spending ages chopping blocks or chopping down trees or mining things
There's
in
quite
Minecraft.
a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Or watching videos of other people doing it, if you're my kids.
Yes, there's a lot of that too.
But as you sit with them and ask those questions of like, what are you doing and why? Getting inside that creativity, as you say, that is the discipleship moment of being able to talk with young people about this world that they inhabit quite regularly, perhaps for 5 to 7 hours a day, if screen time estimates are correct from the internet. And we want to know what they're into and show interest. So I think it's so important as volunteers and church leaders to get alongside that. And also, to, as you say, to spiritually inhabit ourselves. If that is one of the places that we can connect with God, by all means, go and ride a horse in Minecraft and talk to Jesus.
Yeah. And, and a lot of the evangelism happens in a very, for us, it's been a very relational way. You're talking, you're sitting with people, you're spending time doing this. And because it's not programmed for all of the time, conversation flows freely. So you could talk a lot about how you're doing and bring in aspects and bring evangelism in a conversational way with people who come in too. And it's we've just seen them grow steadily in faith. Just been wonderful.
Oh, it is so exciting. Well, thank you, Kevin. I feel like my mind has been opened. I have lots of creative ideas to try in church. And I do hope this has been inspiring and sparked lots of ideas and innovation in those who are listening. Thank you for your time, Kevin.
Well, you're very, very welcome.
Whether you need a structure to follow or ideas to inspire, Roots for Churches has got you covered. Each week, we offer creative ways to engage with Scripture and learn together through discussion, music, games, crafts, and visuals. If you're excited by the idea of Minecraft Church, you might want to check out our 2025 Holiday Club, which has sessions exploring Scripture through Minecraft, Roblox, and Lego. Or you can use our weekly intergenerational outlines to help you run your own version of Minecraft Church. Just pull in our creative prompts, Bible story retellings, colouring sheets, prayers and songs to complement the gaming. If you've been inspired or encouraged by this podcast, please share it with a friend and leave us a comment or review. Click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Let's grow together.